Hi everyone, Maury Curtis Dunbar here. Welcome back to Painted Studio. It is a beautiful fall Tuesday afternoon, and we're going to be playing with some epoxy. I happened to catch somebody else doing an epoxy pour. Hi there, everybody. Glad to see you here, Marciella and April and Sandy. Thanks for popping in. So I happened to catch somebody else in like a 30-second YouTube clip of doing traditional acrylic pours, ring pours, tree pours, whatever the heck they're called, with epoxy. But they did it in a way that I thought was really, really cool. And so I'm going to be experimenting with that a little myself, and we're going to see how it goes. It could be great. It could be a disaster. Keep your fingers crossed. And as I said, we're playing in epoxy, so you can already be proud of me. I've taped up my sleeves, so let's see if I can manage not to be wearing epoxy on my nice new sweater for the fall. Hey, Maddie, nice to see you. All right, I'm going to flip this down. We're going to kind of cover some stuff. So if you see right here in front of me, and I have another one off over here, these are wood boards. You can buy them at Dick Blick, home, or Michael's, or wherever you get your art supplies from. And there's something gooped on there. That doesn't make me happy. And these were not gesso boards. These were not primed. These were truly just wood boards. So I've put set coat on all three of these. This has metallic set coat gunmetal. This one is metallic navy, and the other one, when you see it, is just plain black. And one of these I applied Artsyville foil adhesive to, and we're going to foil this one before we pour the epoxy on it. And I just need to do that first so that it's ready to go when we're ready to go. And I'm using, I think this is the bronze cracked granite one. It is a limited edition foil right now, although the rollers for it are being made. So we will have it available again in full rolls for purchase very soon, as well as by the foot. Now this is a V-mask foil. Now you saw me just kind of throw this down here. So for those who aren't familiar with foils, foils have a pretty side and a not pretty side. And it's the not pretty side that always goes down to the Artsyville adhesive or whatever adhesive you're applying to your surface. It's the ugly side down and then pretty side up. Now this is looking a little dull, and that is because the carrier film that these foils are mounted on, this particular brand, is on a slightly hazy film, so it never looks as good on the roll as it does as soon as we roll this back. I've applied it, and then I am scrubbing with, I have a little tiny scrub brush made by Scotch-Brite. This is probably one of my favorite ones for furniture because it's just the right size. It's not too big and it's not too small. It's definitely, what was it? Goldilocks and the Three Bears. God, I lost my ability to remember childhood stories, but it's the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Scrub brushes for me, it's just right. And then I'm gonna rub this. This is a little air pocket here. And if I rub it and spread that air pocket around, it means that the foil that was mounted onto this film has released to the surface, and it's coming back up released from the film. Now, it's no big deal that it's not that way everywhere. I just like doing that because it's fun for me to kind of zip those bubbles around. I get a kick out of it. And it also means I get a really nice application. So I'm smoothing this, and again, my hands are warm, so just rubbing it with my hands helps this. Foils happen to like to transfer easier with a little heat, so if your studio or your workplace is cold, when you're applying your foil, put it on, rub it down, and if your studio's cold, just take your hairdryer over it a little bit, lightly warm it, and then pull it back and release your film, because you'll get the little bit of heat will help it. I don't mean blast. Don't stand here with your hair dart and go, I mean, you just want to warm the surface the same way I'm warming it with my hands. All right, let's peel it back. Oh, that's killer. So now you can see just how nice the metallization is on that foil. And I'm not worried that this is not a perfect release, because we're going to be doing more stuff over it. So the fact that it's imperfect is not an issue. Get this all on here now. I put adhesive around all the sides because once we do the epoxy will drip over the edges as well. So I want to make sure all the edges are treated the same way as the body of the board. And that's not wanting to release there. Probably because I've got it at a bad angle. There we go. Sometimes you just get an angle where you can't get any pressure on there. Perfect. Here. I'm trying to use up as much of the foil as on the film as possible, because again, once I'm out of this roll, I'm out of it again until it's the new batches are made, and I'm on the list for more of it, so don't you worry. Such a pretty foil. I can't wait for it to be able to have whole rolls of it here for you all. Okay, I think I got most of that. There's a few little spots right here. I'm just going to rub over them with my fingers, fill them back in. If I can rub over it with my fingers and fill in the spots, I like to do that. Simply because I can scrub and scrub and scrub, and then I can create a dull spot if I'm not careful. Yes, it's as fun as popping, Gigi says it's as fun as popping bubble wrap, but I have noticed that the V-mask foil does that and it releases super easy. Exactly. And that's how I know my V-mask foils are releasing. But I can get this kind of bubbling thing to happen on almost every foil. It's just a lot easier to see it on the V-mask because of this funky carrier film that they have. Okay, let's see if I missed any other major spots that are going to bother me later. And I don't even know if they'll bother me because I have no idea if what I'm going to do next is going to be a success. Y'all are learning with me. We're giving it a shot. Okay, so this is our bronze gold granite foil. Look how pretty that is released on there. Now, I'll cover one other thing with this foil that always happens. If you look close to the edge here, you might see that there's a little bit of stuff, little chatter hanging on there. That's what happens with V-mask. It's a slightly thicker metallization as it is, so when it releases from the carrier film, sometimes there's just a little over stuff on it, and all you have to do is just go back and brush it off. It goes away. It doesn't stay there forever, and look, I found a bad spot that I wanted to make good. As I'm rotating this, you know, you see the little things that you miss when the light hits it differently. Okay, so now we're done with that, I think. Do I need to get any on the edge? Probably. All right, so that's gonna get set aside for a little while. So the first thing, we now have a board. We're gonna set the board aside, and we've got to mix our epoxy. And we're gonna be playing with colors and clears. I have, like I said before, I have no idea, honestly, how this is going to come out because I've never done this. I'm only going by a video I watched for all of 30 seconds. So if this is a disaster, it's a disaster for all of us. All right, so the product we're using today is our liquid glass, what is it called? Aristocrats liquid glass. One of the great things about these boxes is when you get it on the side, it tells you the approximate square footage that you get per container. So for like the half pint kit, you get 2 square feet. This is the quart kit, so I would get about 8 square feet out of this. And epoxy levels to approximately 1/8 of an inch thick. So if you need it to be thicker or in a deeper layer, you need to either build a rim around it or pour it down into something, or you're gonna have to pour multiple layers. Okay, so epoxies come in 2 parts, part A and part B, or hardener versus the resin. Most companies usually put 2 separate colored caps on them, so you remember which cap goes on which. For example, this one, the print is in black, the cap is black, so the black cap goes on with the black print. The printing is white, the cap is white, the white cap goes on the bottle with the white printing. Do not mix your caps up, because then you're introducing hardener and resin together, and you can basically permanently weld your caps to the top of the bottles. Don't do that. So pay attention to how you're pouring things. All right, now these are poured 1 to 1, meaning equal parts. If you're not good at eyeball pouring, and I never recommend for anybody to eyeball pour other than me because I'm pretty darn good at it. You want to measure exactly. And when you're using this product, one half is thicker than the other. So this polymer coating, the resin, is likely to be thicker than the hardener. Very standard. Some of them are exactly the same consistency, but usually one has one half that's thicker and one half that's thinner. Okay, and then we're going to put them next to each other. And this is slightly thinner. It's a little cool in my studio today. And I'll explain temperature issues with you in just a minute. Okay, even Steven. One of the things with 2-part epoxies, you should have, whenever you do a pour, these should be dead level. Otherwise, you didn't pour it correctly. So I'm looking at mine, and my bottles aren't even level, so I'm going to pour a little more in here, which is what I thought I needed anyway. I was looking at them, I'm like, it's not quite there. There we go. All right, they have to be even. If you pour too much hardener into your resin, your epoxy will set up too fast and become hard and brittle, and it won't level, and it won't cure up the way you want it to. If you pour too much resin and not enough hardener, you're likely to have soft spots, gummy spots, or the whole thing may never cure. The other thing, and this is something I didn't mention in the past because my studio is always warm, but a friendly reminder is that you gotta pay attention to the temperature too in your workspace, because if it's below certain temperatures, I don't think epoxy likes to harden below 65 degrees. I'll have to check that. My studio's almost always around between 65 and 70, so I've never had a problem with that. But if you're colder than 65 degrees, you may never get this to harden because it doesn't like it. Even if you take it out of the cold space and move it into a warm space, if it hasn't cured in the appropriate warm room, like don't do this in your garage in the fall, okay? Don't do it when it's 55 degrees out and leave this in your garage to cure. You need to bring this in the house where it's warmer so it cures. All right, so I'm pouring the one part into the other. I'm gonna scrape the whole thing out. And I'm really scraping every last bit of this out. Because if I don't, then my proportions aren't even and I will not have a good result. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to set that to the side. I have to remember that that was the cup that had the hardener in it. And now you start stirring. You got to stir and scrape and stir and scrape, and you got to scrape the bottom. You have to completely incorporate the two. Most things say mix 2 minutes. And when they say mix 2 minutes, they don't mean stirring like you're stirring your coffee in the morning. That's not mixing. This is mixing. It's aggressive. You want to get it fully incorporated. Don't worry about the bubbles. I've watched people, they're like, if you stir it slow, you don't get bubbles. You know what? Don't worry about it. That's what the torching is for. Don't worry about the bubbles. You have to be more concerned about getting the epoxy well mixed. Now, some epoxies, they're a little thinner bodied, and so when you stir them up aggressively, you'll start seeing bubbles fly out, and that's generally a very good sign because that means it's getting well mixed. Don't breathe those bubbles. Those bubbles are pure epoxy. You don't want those in your lungs. And we have 1 or 2 fruit flies buzzing around. Actually, they're fungus flies because they did all that work on my back walls last week. Released some of the demons out of it. So I'm hoping that when I pour this today, I don't come back tomorrow and find fruit flies embedded in it. I have found that before. It is just disgusting. I've actually had to Dremel flies out of a countertop because somebody opened the door and let it fly in. All right, so we are really well mixed here. All right, time for me to put on some gloves because if I don't put them on now, it's likely to get ugly around here. Okay. Batty asks, is there a smell to this one? This one has a low odor. These are low VOC. It's not odorless, but it has a low odor. If you want one that's almost completely odor-free, then go to Art Resin. Both products I carry. I just find that this one dries harder. The liquid glass tends to dry harder. So if I want a tougher surface, this one's just a little harder. All right, why am I putting that there yet? I'm not ready for that yet. Okay. Now I don't, we're guessing. I may have to mix up more epoxy to do this. I really am kind of winging this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to mix up some more. This looks like a lot of epoxy, but we're pouring over several boards and we're doing a pour that will be kind of messy and require a lot of pouring of a lot of product. So let's be hopeful. I could end up using this whole thing. There's that one. Let's put these two together. Let's measure. Oh, I'm good. Let those bottles settle too. I want to put them next to each other. That always gives me an idea, because sometimes these containers aren't exactly identical, and that's what I thought. This one just needed a little more. And back into the mix. I know the prep on this takes a long time, but I like you guys to see when I'm doing epoxy, all the preparation so that you're comfortable with it when it comes time for you to do a pour. All right. Let's see, here we go, let's move that out of the way. Everything's mixed. Now I've got to get my colors. Pull everything over to the side so I can see what I'm doing. All right, I do need some white, and then I think I'm going to take a little Dragon Gold, and these are sorry, they're all kind of, I jammed them in so tight now I can't pull them out. There we go. All right, we're gonna take some Dragon Gold, and these are our art resin epoxy pigments. I'm gonna take some of that one. I need some good contrast happening so that it's good and visible. Oh gosh, that white leaked again. What a mess. I don't know what color this one is. I think this is, oh, Queen Stiletto. And let's see, I want some colors that are gonna go great over this, but have enough contrast so that they're gonna look good poured over each other. Okay, let's try these colors. We're gonna see how these go. As you can see, I picked up pigment that had my little bottle of white pigment that I just get off of Amazon. We don't carry these. It kind of likes to leak. So yeah, be aware of that too. Even though I've cleaned this and sealed it 3 times, it just likes to leak. All right, so the smallest one I'm gonna take, that's the smallest one. I just want the white because the white can easily overwhelm, and I'm not putting a ton in, just maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. And I'll just mix that together. Now that white is very opaque and very dense, and it can easily overpower, so you have to be careful with that. Love the cups with the measurements, keep you from goofing. Yep. Whatever trick works for you to keep you from having issues with measurements, I suggest go for it. Now, this jar got a little bit of the white pigment leaking around everywhere, so it's messy. Our resin art pigments take approximately 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon per ounce. You can pigment it a little more if you want, but don't go too crazy because you might make it so pigment dense that it does not, that the pigment wants to float on the top of it a little bit. There we go. Okay, I gotta wipe that again because there is just white resin pigment everywhere. Ugh. Yeah, what a mess. I'm so proud of myself when I do stuff like this. I just gonna say that whole jar is gonna have to be cleaned later. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll just, you know, pull a Scarlet O'Hara. Think about it tomorrow. Okay, this is our Dragon Gold Art Resin Epoxy Pigments, or Resin Art Epoxy Pigments. This is a lovely gold color. Okay. So today the high has been 61 here, and that was after we were at like 85 on Saturday. So it was a little schizophrenic in the temperatures around here. This is our Red Plum Resin Art Pigment, and all of these colors, with the exception of the white, are available on paintedstudio.com. I think I'll just fold that up a little bit. Try to keep myself from making a bigger mess than I already know I'm about to make. All right, and the last one is Mermaid. This is gonna be pretty. If this comes out right, it's gonna be gorgeous. If it comes out badly, oh well. We'll know very, very quickly. It's a little more in there. Okay, and so as I prep to do the pouring, what'll happen here in these cups with these pigments is they were powder pigments, so they're gonna bloom into the epoxy. So before we do the pouring, I'll have to give them one more stir. But I think before I do anything else, maybe I'm gonna change out of these gloves because I'm getting white on everything. And I might even just be smart and put a little piece of cheesecloth in front of me so that I'm not sticking my arms in it. Look, I'm trying to be tidy. You want to see how well that's worked? Nancy, am I using chalk paint as a base? No. I am using Faux Effects Set Coat in assorted colors, and one of our boards I have done foils on. You can pour resin over darn near anything as long as it's not waxy. Wax does not like anything to be poured over it. Okay, so we're gonna try this. I got these. This is kind of an interesting thing that I got on the internet. I went on Amazon. Oh good, the first one's broken. I'm so happy with that. The thing I saw online they make these split cups out of silicone. Well, I personally don't intend to spend all my days doing split pours, so I only bought a couple, and these are disposable. So I'm going to pour clear in one half. Now my pot life, meaning that my work time with this when it's in these cups or in their pot, is about 45 minutes. After that, it starts to harden up. If you want it to stay open longer, put it in a flatter container. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit of an iffy thing for me because I'm not used to pouring in layers. I haven't done that since I tended bar. But we're gonna pour some layers of colors in here. I hope this works. I have no idea. Just layering my colors over each other slowly and carefully. Because I don't want them to mix, I want them to lay on top of each other. And I have to get it so that it's even with this other line, so they pour evenly. Otherwise, all the clear will pour before I even get near the colors coming out. And I'm not putting these colors in specific order. I'm just plopping them in and keeping filling. Okay. Let's get a little more gold in here. Oh my gosh, my cup is cracked on one side and it's literally leaking out. I did not know that was happening. These just came from Amazon yesterday, so they obviously kind of got kicked around a little bit. So I'm not pleased with that. I just noticed it was pouring back here by glancing up. All right, so they are pretty close to even. I need to pour a little more of the clear in. Okay, we're gonna start doing this very first one over the blue board. And I will stand up to do this because I need a little more dexterity. Now, I have never done this, so this is either gonna be awesome. Let me get this in so you can see. So this is a lot of epoxy just for a container, a canvas or a board this size. But look how cool that is. All right, this one's gonna get thrown away because it's clearly leaking everywhere. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just maneuver it. I take my fingers and hit the edge here. And I will go in with my fingers into this and go on the sides so that there is basically a slip coat along the side edges here. Come on. I know there's more stuff in there. I can see it. I just can't reach it. My fingers aren't that long. What happens. I'm working in a small area of my big table so that you all can see what I'm doing, and then I just pile everything up within an inch of me so that there's no room to move anything. All right. I think I've gotten pretty much everything out of that cup. I've gotten it smeared all along the edges here. And this is already pretty cool. If you look up close, you can see that that's pretty cool. So we're gonna just sort of move it around a little bit, but I do need to take off a glove. I'm going to take my torch and just liquefy it a little bit. I just want this to shift a little more. Great, I took the glove off. I need the glove back on. I'm killing myself here. All right, fresh glove. This is why I keep a stack of gloves around. Let's get this back and do this again. So I've liquefied that, I've warmed it, I've popped some bubbles, and it's gonna start shifting towards me. Shift it that way. Now I may not love this. I think I don't mind going in with my fingers and moving things around. That's the thing with the pours. I know a lot of people just want to pour it and shift it and let it do its thing. I have no fear of like sticking my fingers in the middle of something. And then let's see. Might want to put a little bit of clear in a few spots. I'd like to put a little clear in here just to balance this out a little bit. And you know what? I won't even know what this is going to look like until it's completely dry, because the epoxy will keep shifting. We're going to keep having reaction as it moves. Let's get this all covered. And I got it all along the edges here. But all in all, I can say I'm not loving this color combination on here, but I love the reaction. So I'm pretty pleased with what's starting to happen. Come on, you guys want to fill that spot. I know people just get really worried about touching their epoxy, and really, it's just really gooey stuff. So don't be afraid of touching it. You know, wear gloves, of course, but don't worry about perfection with this, especially not in a finish like this. All right, so we're gonna torch this. Notice I'm not sticking my torch straight down in. I've watched too many people do it, and it's how you burn through the epoxy and burn the substrate below it. You're just taking it on its side and wafting it across the surface. It liquefies the epoxy, it makes it more liquid, and then it causes the bubbles to rise and pop. If you have a funny spot in your surface, you can always take a little denatured alcohol or 99% alcohol, spritz it on your surface. Sometimes you get some interesting reactions from doing that. Might pop some crystalline or some cell activity. You see right there where I just sprayed it, it's kind of moving and drifting. So we're gonna get some really interesting stuff happening there. Right there. I can see it blooming. Now, if I wanted to, I could put mica powders in my alcohol and spritz that on there too, and you get some really pretty reactions. But just even spritzing a little alcohol on the surface of your epoxy creates some really cool resin reactions. All right, I'm gonna take these dirty gloves off. And yes, I go through a lot of pairs of gloves when I do this stuff, especially if I'm doing a bunch of canvases like I'm doing today. And I think we're just gonna do 2 today. I have 2 more to do, but I'll save those for tomorrow. Today is the experimental day for where I figure this stuff out. And I think I might need to change some of my color choices out for the next one. Like, kind of need to change them a lot. See, I didn't like how pink this got here. It looks a little like a pigskin. But I love this reaction. So I was for my very first time playing with that kind of pour, I have no complaints. So I'm going to set that one there, and we're going to take another container, and we're going to put this one on here. Now, this one, I'm going to have to think my colors a little differently. I think the blue is going to go away. I think the white is going to go away. We're going to keep the plum. We're going to keep the gold. Obviously, we're going to need the clear. Let's see if I got one of these that's not going to be broken. I love when I get stuff and I can't even get it apart. There we go. Yay. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this other piece that I just set off is going to shift and run all night until it's completely cured up in the morning. Oh yes, I'm going to need some more epoxy. Finish pouring this one into the split cup. Alrighty. Should probably move that ever so slightly out of the way while I pour some more epoxy. Okay, hardener. I'm not going to need a huge amount, so I'm not worrying. I'm not going to mix anywhere near as much as I mixed the first time around. I should be pretty good. Just needs a little more of this. And there we go. All right. This has got to be like watching somebody mix water. I think we're about mixed up here. Put that over the side. Okay, a little more aggressive mixing just to make sure. And we're going to put a little more in that 1 cup. All right, I know I'm going to need at least 1 or 2 more colors in here. And maybe we'll put a drop or 2 of black in there. Not let it make it so dense so it doesn't take over quite so much. All right, I think instead of the light blue that we had before on the other one, we're going to use our Belize blue. in the pigments. I think that'll read a little nicer on this with the dark colors. Again, 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of pigments per ounce of liquid material that you're mixing in. Okay, there's that one. I just got to mix the black up a little bit. Okay, and we're going to take our cup back here. Start by pouring in a little bit of Belize Blue. I did check, this one's not cracked, so I shouldn't have quite the messy issue I had before. Okay, we'll put in a little bit of Queen Stiletto. And then a little bit of Red Plum. And with the gold. Let's see, we'll go back with a little more Queen Stiletto. Obviously, I'm not measuring anything specifically to get a certain layers of colors, certain amounts of anything. I just want this to be cool. Honestly, that's how all I can say is I just want this to look cool. Put a little more black in. Almost, I just got to put a little more in. I try to get these two sides level so that when they pour, we're getting equal parts clear and color. All right, let's give this a try again. I'm going to stand up. So I don't worry about how goopy something like this might look at the edges right here, because I know that the epoxy will eventually start to level, and a lot of the kind of funky stuff that happens at the edges where things get a little muddy looking start to shift off. And I keep turning the one that's over there just to make sure it's drying levelly. Let's do that, set that to the side. Make sure we are all gotten along the edges here. And where's my clear? I think I had a little, did I have a little clear left? That was the other one. Here we go. I like how this one's looking. It's kind of very interesting to me. I'm gonna take whatever I can get out of these cups, stick my fingers in it, run it along the sides here. Let's take the gold one too. Now my epoxy's starting to stiffen up a little bit because we've been working with it for a while. That's not a problem. It's still completely fine to use. It's not cured yet. Oops, no, it's not. Have that fall off the container. That would be sad. I'm just putting a little extra epoxy and fill in some of the spaces because I don't want it to become sort of a ready pink muddled mess, which could happen really easily here. So if I throw a little clear in and I throw in a little gold, and if I need to, I can even throw in just a little bit of black here and there. Just to sort of add some interest where it wants to stop being interesting, like right in there. All right, so now I've poured the epoxy everywhere. I'm gonna sit down so that I can get at my torch, and then I can start shifting this. Let's start shifting this a little bit. Now, I don't know. I know that the epoxy, the foil underneath here is going to add a little bit of a metallic final look to this. I have no idea what it's going to look like in the end, but clearly epoxying over foil is not an issue. Let's fill in some of these gaps, because if I tilt it too much this way, I'm going to lose all that gold, and I'm not happy. This area is looking a little dull, so I might take some of this. So I don't think my pour was as successful as a pour on its own, but it does lead for some interesting techniques and ideas for me. So I'm glad I tried this. We're going to try another version of this tomorrow. I hope you all have been keeping up with our contest. I put a new hint up every day. As soon as I finish doing our live today, I will be putting up the hint for this one for today, which I have not done yet. And we're going to be announcing the winner soon enough. And the other thing is the stencils. Everybody was asking me last week about stencils because I was doing stencils for $1. That was local only, and I told you all. See, I'm not crazy. The pour didn't do what I thought it was going to do. It's done some cool stuff, but I'm not loving it. It's not what I thought I was going to get out of that. It was a good experiment. It might work better. I saw it done with epoxies. Didn't work so as well as I thought it was going to do. Might work better over a plain white surface. Maybe my color choices weren't my best, but I got some interesting stuff out of it, just not crazy about it. It was definitely worth the try. I'm gonna, there we go. Spritz a little alcohol on it. It causes some sissing and some very interesting reactions, but this wasn't the pour that I thought it was going to be. I'm not unhappy with it. It just didn't do. I thought, because of the video I'd seen, that cool swirling thing that happened when we first poured it would stay, and it didn't. But it's still a cool effect. It's still worth trying again. I may play with this some more. I've got a couple more boards set up to do this tomorrow, so you know, we may be back doing this tomorrow. I may perfect my technique a little. Okay, one other thing. Let's get to the stencils. Well, before I forget, because I will. The stencils, those that are unsold now. I am doing mystery boxes for $15 plus shipping and handling. The boxes are going to have a bunch of stencils in it. There's no set number of stencils. Trust me, you will get well more than what you're paying. So the total price is going to be $30.50 because I went over to the post office. They're going to go in priority mailboxes. I don't set the shipping rate, so the shipping rate is what it is. So for $15, you're going to get a minimum of 6 stencils in there. And they'll be complete. Some of them will be classroom stencils. Some of them will be brand new. I'm not taking requests for whatever kind you want. Just trust me, if you like some stuff, if you want a bunch of stencils at a really great price. So I'm wiping off the epoxy on my arms because I always get it on me. Want a bunch of stencils? Send me a message and I will put together a mystery box of stencils for you, and it'll be cool, and I guarantee you, half the stencils that are in this stack are well over $30 retail on their own. So you're going to get a great deal. Just send me a message, put a message in our inbox, let me know if you want it. I'll reach out to you, we'll get your credit card information, and they'll go in the mail first thing the day after you place the order. All right, everybody, I'm just trying to get myself ungooped. I got to go lock doors. I usually save epoxy pouring for the last thing of the day because then it sits here and drips and makes a mess overnight, and I come back and clean it all up tomorrow. If I've missed any questions, of course, I'll come back and read them and check them for you and type them all out so you have the references. And if you're looking for the links for the epoxy, of course, we'll put that up as well. All the materials would be listed at the top of this post once I get off and fill it all in. And again, keep going with our mystery contest. That prize on that contest is the 5-pack, 16-ounce sample pack of the brand new Luster Stone Ice Collection from Faux Effects, just out on the market now. So we're gonna give one of those away. There might be a stencil in there too if you're nice, or something else. I haven't decided. There might be a little mystery something besides the Luster Stone. And yeah, if you need stencils, send me a message. All right, everybody, have a great evening. I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.